Lisa Durden joins us. Lisa Durden is an African-American pop culture and political commentator who appears on a lot of different shows talking about issues of the day. Hi, Lisa.
How are you?
Very good. We're going to talk about the case of Sandra Bland, who was pulled over by a Texas state trooper for failing to signal a lane change. Now, that doesn't seem like the type of infraction that you end up in jail at the end of the day, or arrested, or even that you have to get out of your car for. That just doesn't. Come on. People do it every single day, and they don't end up in jail for it. So, what you're saying, Lisa, is that if this had been a white lady driving this car, she wouldn't have been arrested.
Absolutely not. First of all, white people expect white people to fight for their rights. White people expect white people to know their rights. But when a black person, in this case a female, is actually asserting her rights to the police officer, he doesn't look at that as asserting her rights. He looks at that as uppity N-word. This is how they feel. So he felt like he had to now take a position of, me against you. First of all, police officers need to understand one thing. We are your boss. You are a public servant. You are there to serve the public. Yes, a criminal is your customer. Even though they're committing crimes, your job is to take care of the criminal in such a way where it's not causing undue harm. So even though this is a small infraction, and actually, I think in Texas or Houston or wherever this happened, you are able to arrest someone for that. But let's be real. Who actually arrests people for not making a left signal to make a left turn? The jail would be bursting at the seams. Nobody gets arrested for that kind of thing. Well, he didn't like her attitude, and he felt like, who the hell does she think she is?
Well, characterizing someone who doesn't give a lane change signal as a criminal, that hardly rises to the level of criminality.
No. It's right. It's not a criminal kind of thing, but I'm saying technically, yes, where she is, you can get arrested for those kinds of traffic violations, but nobody ever does it. They leave it up to the discretion of the police officer. So on the books, yes, you can, but we saw everything that unfolded in the video, and the video was horrifying, even though it was edited by the police department, and we still thought it was horrifying.
Now,
every step of the way, this man was wrong.
Now, some people have suggested that Ms. Bland was not obeying the police officer when he said put out the cigarette, and that in fact is somewhere in one of the regulations. You're not supposed to smoke within however many feet of an automobile. However, I looked this up because that would be an awfully nitpicky thing, even if that were the case. But I looked it up. The criminal code as it exists in Texas for smoking doesn't say anything about smoking inside your vehicle. So he was not giving her a lawful command that she was bound to follow by saying, put your cigarette. That was just a request that I assume she could either acquiesce to or not.
Absolutely. It wasn't like he ran up on her and she was smoking a crack pipe.
No.
Or he ran up on her and she was smoking a joint, puff, pass, and there was some illegal activity going on. I looked, smoking a cigarette was legal, and she was inside the confines of her car. No, every step of the way, this local cop wanted to make it seem like she was the reason for her own victimization. Even when he got to the point where he was so angry with her and dragged her, he physically assaulted her, actually, and dragged her out of the car and then started screaming, yeah, I was just going to let you go with a warning, but now I won't. First of all, no, the hell, you were not going to let her go with a warning, because if you would have had that as a plan, it would have escalated to that point. You were saying it after the fact, and you wanted it to be on your dash cam that this was something that she caused and not you. He's a liar. He had no plans on letting her go with a warning, because when you plan to do that, the cop walks up, they say what you have to say, you say what you have to say, they go, I'm letting you go with a warning. I've been stopped by police officers on plenty of occasions, and the one who wanted to let me go with a warning did it quickly and expediently. They didn't sit there and drag me out in the argument and drag me out of the car, and their secret intentions were to let me off with a warning. That's bullcrap.
We're talking to Lisa Durden about the Sandra Bland arrest, and Lisa has said and stated that if this had been a white lady, she wouldn't have been arrested for this. Well, I have a feeling that our opinions are a little too close for this to be much of an argument here, Lisa. So let me play devil's advocate for a moment. Maybe instead of dealing with a racist cop, we're dealing with a cop. I don't know if you caught that or not.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, because those exist here that just get off on a power trip. And they're, maybe they're not racist. Maybe he's just a hole.
Right. I think he's a racist blank hole. I think he's a combination of both. The reason why, and people don't like to hear race, and listen, black people don't think that whites don't arrest each other, and white cops don't arrest each other, things don't happen to white people. I think white cops arrest white folks every day, but it's the manner in which they do it. So even if the white woman would have been arrested, he wouldn't have done all of that, dragged her out of the car and said all that kind of vile and sexual stuff to her. It would have still been different, because let's look at Dylan Roof. Dylan Roof murdered 9 people in a church, and he didn't get shot up and murdered on the street. They arrested him without incident, and he's a mass murderer, and they took him to Burger King to get him some Burger King because he was hungry. But the black man standing on the corner of New York selling loose cigarettes, they choked him down to death. So there is a very big difference when a white racist cop is arresting a white person versus a black person. It's a given.
Now,
I can cite many things. We don't have enough time in the radio show.
This going to be splitting hairs a little bit, but my understanding is Dylan Roof, they did go and get him Burger King at his request, but they didn't take him to the Burger King.
I'm saying, my point is they went to get him Burger King. All of that is wrong on all levels. When you can take a mass murderer, if a black man would have wanted Burger King, first of all, he wouldn't be allowed to ask for Burger King.
He probably
shot him in the street.
Right, you've got to think.
He wouldn't have been allowed to ask for Burger King.
It seems like they did have the kid gloves on with Dylan Roof for whatever reason.
Well, we always do. So this is what happens when you see the difference between black justice and white justice. There is a distinct difference. We're not saying that we don't ever see whites arrested. Of course we do.
Okay, what if, Lisa, if somebody were to say, listen, you know that this is an attitude that exists. I mean, not all cops are racist. I mean, there are plenty of African-American cops, and there are plenty of white cops who don't treat people differently. But since you know that it is something out there, if you're an African-American person, it would be in your best interest to tell your kids, be as nice as pie to the police officer. Don't give them the attitude that a white person or an Asian person, I would imagine, has the luxury of giving them. And I know how hard that is to swallow, because it sounds like you're doing some kind of step and fetch routine, and I can understand how terrible that is.
No. I am a black person who does do that. I make a decision to do that, but be very careful in what you're saying. It doesn't guarantee that racist cop won't bash you over the head and drag you to a cell and murder you. A black man in East Orange, New Jersey, I forgot his name, was doing none of those things. He was doing everything the cops said, and they still bust his head open. So just because you kowtow to these robo-cops does not mean you're guaranteed to not be brutalized. So I just take my best chance. However, this woman, Sandra, was a Black Lives Matter kind of activist. So she was not going to kowtow like what Lisa Durden will do, and I've done plenty of times. And she doesn't have to.
Now, Lisa, I know it's a terrible thing to even insinuate that black people should need to be extra careful around the police. What we should say is the police need to treat everybody equally. But I don't know if you have kids or not, Lisa, but if you did, especially a son, what would you tell him? What would you say his behavior toward the police should be?
I would certainly tell him that, because I was taught that by my Southern black parents about how to walk through the world as a black woman. However, if in the event something still happened that was unjust, they would still stand behind me knowing I'm right. It doesn't make what the cop did right because she stood up to him and she could have made the decision not to. That was a personal choice. Listen, but yes, I would raise my children to do that. Absolutely.
I've seen with my own eyes people be much more disrespectful to a police officer than Sandra Bland was being. I mean, this wasn't the ideal stop from her perspective, but I've seen people do much worse and only get yes, ma'am, thank you, ma'am. Not an arrest, certainly, Right. Now, what is the latest with? Have there been any charges pressed against the officer?
Well, the last I heard, there have been no charges pressed. That's a disaster. They need to press charges against this police officer. I think the last I heard, he was on administrative duty with pay. They need to take this to a grand jury and have this case brought to court. They need to do an independent investigation that has to do with the FBI and not, the blue wall of silence, because we know that they're never going to tell on each other. This is a major cover-up. Somebody murdered this woman inside that jail cell. And that little the prison snitch, young white girl talking that crap. First of all, you got out because you said something that was going to get you out earlier time.
Well, catch me up on this. They had a girl.
This white woman was a prisoner I'm saying prisoner. They were in jail together. There was a little box you can look out of. She doesn't know everything that happens throughout the day and night. So she said, no, she was on the news. And she said, I don't think that there was any foul play. I do think she committed suicide. Shut the hell up. You got out of jail early for sitting there saying that about the police officers. You're full of crap, too. No. All of this is full of crap.
Now listen, Lisa, Fernie mentioned something to me, and he was going to forward an article. There are some people saying, and I don't know if this is cuckoo or not, that there's a suggestion that Ms. Bland was deceased when her mugshot photo was taken.
Yeah,
Fernie?
You play the thing from Complex Magazine that I sent you. A lot of people that's one of the things that people are questioning, as well as a dash cam video that was released. And the Los Angeles Times, there's a post on our website, KLAQ.com, for everyone to look at, but the Los Angeles Times did a really good job of putting a side-by-side comparison of the two videos that were released. Here's Complex Magazine.
One Twitter user showing a host of other Waller County mugshots compared it to Bland's mugshot. Notice how everyone has on clothes they were arrested in except hashtag Sandra Bland. Now, there are other mugshots of the arrested in orange jumpsuits, but it's not that common. The most recent incidents were for people arrested for sexual assault. Bland was not. Waller County Police have yet to speak on why she didn't appear in the mugshot with plain clothes. Some have also pointed to the background of the mugshot, stating that it matches the color of her jail cell floor, while others have questioned the position of Bland's shoulders in the photograph, as well as the lighting, with a growing theory that points towards the photo being taken from above her as her lifeless body rests on the ground.
So I'm just trying to see if I understand the suggestion here is that what they're saying is Ms. Bland died during the arrest and they took her mugshot while she was deceased. Is that what I'm understanding?
That certainly is the accusation. And you know what? I wouldn't put anything past these people. It's ridiculous. And we've seen many situations where police officers literally made up things, just like that black guy. If the Indian man didn't take video of this black guy run another routine traffic stop, he started running from the cop, and the cop shot him in the back because his paperwork wasn't good. The cop made a story saying the guy snatched the stun gun from him and all, and it was a wrangle. And the guy on the side submitted that video, and there was no such happening. So this is a constant thing that's going on with the police department. It's ridiculous, and I just don't know why the government doesn't step in and put some legislation down that mandates certain kinds of things be put in place. Because if you leave it to internal affairs, like really, no.
I would think that forensics would be able to tell the difference between whether somebody had died from, for instance, blunt force trauma or from strangulation.
Yes, you have an independent forensic expert, but if you have somebody hired by the police department, why would they come out against you? This is not something new that white folks who are racist have been doing to black people for years. Years ago, many still happens, but not as much. So white women have accused black men of raping them back in, Jim Crow times, and they had all kinds of kangaroo, things going on with the police department making up lies and bringing up evidence that never existed. This is nothing new. They need their own independent individual to come in and do that kind of thing.
Well, the independent individual would be the county medical examiner.
No, they need their own independent medical examiner that they hire independently. That Sandra Bland's family hires independently of the county or anybody in and around that area. Well,
Ms. Bland's family would certainly have the opportunity to do that once.
Without
Well, I think her funeral was over the weekend, so I don't know if her family chose to do that or not.
Right, I'm not for sure where they are at this point because the funeral happened over the weekend exactly.
Well, listen,
so even here,
I think Miss Bland was certainly mistreated. I think it was probably race had a lot to do with it, and I agree with your assessment that a white lady probably would not have been treated like that. Probably. No. But
or a white man. A white man would not have been treated like that. I've seen many movies, an example. I've seen many occasions on the news or anything where white men run and they even wrangle and fight with the cops, and the cops let them down and put the handcuffs on. I've seen many of those scenarios, but they don't shoot them in the head. They don't shoot them in the back. They want to subdue them and arrest them. They don't want to kill them. They want to kill us.
I don't know. I mean, of course, I don't know Miss Bland. I don't know her personality. I don't know anything about her other than what's being reported, of course. But I you know, it's possible that she committed suicide at her jail cell. I know it's certainly fishy in light of everything that went on before that.
But these so-called suicidal thoughts and those things in these writings, there has been no validation that this came from her. These letters weren't signed by her. These so-called suicide notes were not signed by her. This is all very suspicious. That's a no. Because when people commit suicide, they sign the letter and all that kind of stuff. That there was no such thing as those so-called notes and information. That's all being trumped up by these individuals.
Okay, what if, and this is just a suggestion, what if Ms. Bland, I guess she had written or posted things about depression, you know, which is certainly not an uncommon thing for people to suffer. And that after 3 days in jail, if she was on some kind of antidepressant medication like a Zoloft or something like that, or Prozac, and didn't have access to her medication, that might have, when you're on something like that and you get off of it, it depends on the medication, but within a few days, you're worse off not taking your medicine.
Right. First of all, there was no record that she sent any emails. Let's start with that. Secondly, I'm going to go just to far and say, let's just say she was depressed. Let's say that she was on suicide watch. They're still culpable because if she was on suicide watch, in their own rules, you're supposed to be watching that prisoner even more often than once every hour. So why wasn't she unstoppable if she did kill herself? They didn't give a damn.
Well, I'll tell you this.
Either way,
it doesn't.
Either way, she was treated that way because she was black. So I'm okay with if they finding so she committed suicide, that they still have to go to jail for that because nobody gave a crap.
I agree with you. She should not have been arrested in the first place. So even if it was because of her mental state while in jail, she shouldn't have been in jail in the first place. She should have either been given a warning or, worst case scenario, written a ticket. That's all that should have happened.
Absolutely.
All right. Lisa Durden is our guest. I got one question here from Todd, who has emailed me and says, what does Lisa expect the government to do? How does she suggest the government fix the problem? You did mention the government should step in and do something. Do you have anything concrete in mind?
The government can step in on dumb stuff like people needing to be able to keep their cell phone numbers and stop cell phone companies from making us change our cell numbers every time we change companies, which they did back in the 90s. If the government can stop conjuncting on something that dumb and make legislation to prevent that, I'm not the president, I'm not a governor, I'm not the Senate. They can think of some legislation that can mandate across all police departments in the United States of America that whenever there's cases such as this, is maybe some kind of mandatory FBI investigation. I don't know, but they can do something because they do it for less important things.
Well, I would suggest that, dash cams and the police officers all have cameras, but we had a camera in this case. We saw everything that happened.
The dash cam video was edited, so what's the point of that?
I know there's been a suggestion that the dash cam has been edited.
It was in fact proven. Yeah. Side by side, there was edited. CNN had a very good clip of it. They did commentary and showed things appearing and disappearing, and there was inconsistency in the chronology of what's in the video and what she was saying on the audio piece.
That's
a fact. It's not an opinion.
If you go to our website, KLAQ.com, you can actually watch the side-by-side comparison of the two videos that were released, and it actually points out where a lot of people say it's edited.
So they're saying somebody went in and scrubbed this video or snipped it.
The sheriff's office is saying that the reason that happened is because of when it was uploaded, it had technical glitches.
Yeah.
Yeah, like technical glitches in all these intermittent areas throughout the piece. Okay.
And TV Houston station actually got a hold of a voicemail that Sandra Bland left for a family member who didn't answer their phone.
Now, this is at what point and what was going on?
Well, she basically is calling saying that she went to court, but she's having a hard time trying to figure out how she ended up in jail over a turn signal.
Hey, this is me. I just was able to see the judge. I don't really know. They got me set at a $5,000 bond. I'm still just at a loss for words, honestly, about this whole process. How they're switching lanes with no signal, turning to all of this, I don't even know. But I'm still here, so I just call me back when you can.
Well, I mean, she certainly doesn't sound suicidal. She, at this point almost sounds resigned, but I could certainly understand her being agitated if she had been that, or being indignant. I mean, I think that would be an appropriate response. But
and the family does say that doesn't sound like someone who is going to kill themselves.
No, listen, an injustice was done here. I'm not saying that it wasn't done, and definitely there should be something where police are held accountable, and if they treat one person differently than they would treat another person in an arrest like this, then we need something in place to stop it, Lisa. So I certainly agree with you on that.
No, yeah, I definitely, I definitely feel like this is. It makes me sick to my stomach. It makes me nauseous. It was totally preventable, as far as I'm concerned. This officer would not accept this kind of behavior from somebody if this were his daughter having a left signal.
Right.
And his daughter got stopped. He would not accept this kind of behavior from his fellow officer, treating his own daughter or his wife like that, or his sister.
No, you wouldn't want to be treated. That's kind of a simple way to go by it. Treat everyone the way you would want yourself or your loved one to be treated.
Absolutely. So there are so many cases over the last few years of Black people being brutalized. I just can't even sleep at night. It's like another one and another one and another one. Like, is nobody seeing this but us? And then people are getting mad because we're saying Black Lives Matter. Well, of course, all lives matter, you idiots. But if you don't want to include us in the word called all, we have to now shout Black Lives Matter, so we can now show you that we do care about our own lives. It's no different than the music of the 60s, when people like James Brown had to teach us to say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud. It doesn't mean we hate others, but we have to certainly love ourselves because we are not seeing it anywhere else. And just like the show Black Girls Rock, white girls got mad because it's Beverly Bond having an award show called Black Girls Rock, where she awards people who are African American women who've done great things, and they're mad because we're calling it Black Girls Rock. Well, if you had it on your award show and gave us awards, we wouldn't have a separate award called Black Girls Rock, you freaking idiot.
Well, I think they do have some award shows that are open to all races.
No, they're not open to all races because we don't know. They play a game. When we see award shows, if one Black gets something, it's won every 10 years. So stop playing. This is not something that we are consistently considered in. I'm not saying we're never considered. When you look at the Oscars and the Emmys and all that, you might, when you see a Black person, woo, a Black person, woo! That's how often it happens. Not often.
What?
So
well, hold on a second.
Every single time you see Black girls rock, Black girls are getting an award every single time.
I think the African American population in the United States is somewhere around 20%. So you would expect for every 10 awards for there to be 2 African Americans, if things just statistically speaking, if that were the case. So I don't know about one.
It's not about rationing out things. It's about what's deserving. We've seen Black people who were deserving of an award over a white person, and they didn't get it because they weren't white. I don't care if it's one black person every 10 years if that's all they deserve.
Lisa, every year, if you want to talk about the Academy Awards, every year I see something where, because I'm really into movies, I see something where I certainly thought somebody else deserved the award over the person. And it doesn't have to do and with race in those cases.
I get that, but I'm talking about the legacy.
You need a break.
Of us not winning. I'm not talking about white up against each other. There are so many of you all can't win. That makes no sense. But when you're talking about the body of actors and actresses, a lot of people long before now who were black should have won more than once. Leslie Uggam and Auntie Davidson, Ruby Dee, and Angela Bassett. Long before 2015, Angela Bassett should have beat out some of those chicks once or twice in the course of her career that she was better than them. The best. But they didn't give it to her. And many other actresses. So no, there's no equality there.
You forgot Cicely Tyson, too.
Oh, I forgot about her. Yeah, that's another good one. And again, I'm not saying she deserves one for every single thing she's done, but her body of work, if she has no Academy Awards, and she has 1,000, I mean, come on. And I love Meryl Streep. She deserves them all.
Leonardo DiCaprio has 0 Academy Awards, I think.
And a whole lot of white people don't, but a whole lot of white people do, and not a whole lot of black people do. So that's my point. I'm not looking at the ones who don't.
You know what?
All the ones are going for white people.
I'll tell you what. Of all the things to get upset about, I'd be more upset about black people being thrown to the ground during routine traffic stops.
We were discussing it, but I was showing this as an example to say, in many ways, this is why we're screaming Black Lives Matter, because we have seen it in many different ways that our lives don't matter in entertainment, our lives don't matter in actually our lives of living in the flesh, our lives don't matter. We're invisible in this country.
You really need a break. Lisa, I would say a lot more black men win NBA championships than white men do.
Well, I mean, okay,
I'm just trying to lighten the mood, Lisa. That was just a joke.
You're hilarious.
All right, honey. Listen, thank you for talking to us, Lisa. We'll do this again soon, okay? All right.
Actually, the basketball, the owners of the basketball teams make way more money than the ones bouncing the ball. I want to be them. I want to be the owner of the basketball team.
Yeah, but the guys bouncing the ball make way more than me, so I would have loved to.
So we are both in the same boat.
Right, all right.